And we're live. Sketch Zone Podcast is on the air. I am Carlos Gomez. With us this week, we have this guy. We're going to run through his IMDb here in a second. If you look under career ADD, you will see a picture of this man here. This guy, he has done absolutely everything. He's done visual effects, acting, directing, writing. He's in the art department, cinematography, miscellaneous crew, because they're like, well, you do everything. You might as well be in the miscellaneous crowd. Editor and the animation department. This, my friends, is the great Daniel Thron.
It's sort of amazing how satisfying it is to hear even Cam flying.
Yeah, that's a live studio audience, young
Where's
man.
that guy?
It's all the kids that just came to the door from when they were Jack rang the bell.
Yeah, man.
Do it.
You usually have some energetic audience members in there just like yelling out. And quietly.
Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks, sir.
And that my buddy right there, my buddy Charlie B. Williams III.
Hey. Yeah. I'm in my new house, Carlos. So good. Oh, Jack, I love you so much.
That's what it's gonna sound like.
What's behind that door over there?
Little kids with the black eyes.
You know what would be cool? You know what would be cool right then? If I would have had like a remote and the light just went off. It's funny because this is the oldest looking room in the house too. Gosh, Jack, I really don't like your
You're gonna drywall over there, aren't you?
He's gonna have boards with big railroad ties and everything.
You're gonna come back, it's gonna be a totally different room.
And over there, that's Jack Kasperzak.
Hello. Yes, it is me.
So, to bring that story to light. Before we go there, during the show, if you're watching and you feel like reaching out on the hotline bling, you can hit us up at 408-753-8248. That's 408-SKETCH-8.
Don't hit me up.
Ask anyone on the show a question, especially that guy right there. That's Daniel Thron. He's quite the badass. We'll get to that in a second. So Daniel, to bring you up to speed with why Charlie has a creepy door behind him, and now he's dancing. Charlie just bought a house, and he just moved in, and now he's got this creepy thing, like Children of the Corn living in walls type of thing.
Not bad.
And we had a show before where kids would come to, not kids, like supposedly in England, I think, kids would come to the door and do this and do that, and they would have completely black eyes. But not like I told you to clean your room and then you punch them in the face black eyes. Like they had like their pupils were like completely dilated or whatever it was that they their whole eyeball was black, and then they would ask you to come into the house and stuff. And,
I thought that was true for all British kids. I thought that's what. Wasn't really sure.
Messed up.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you leave the EU.
Exactly.
Turn to black eyes.
They got the Brexit eyes. That's what happened.
And they want back in? Is that what they're asking? Excuse us. Can we back in?
The border.
It's a horrible mistake.
Back in.
Yeah, so England and their black-eyed kids are trying to figure it out. Hopefully, it'll work out.
But I mean, it is true in movies that British kids are infinitely more frightening than any other kind of kid in the world. Like that's the go-to.
I agree.
Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, of course. I mean, that's why it's like in the Innocents or something like that. That's why those kids are freaky. Or what's the movie where Village of the Damned?
Yeah.
Like if those were not British kids, I mean, if those kids were like Charlie, if like you had like New Jersey kids show up.
It'd be like that one like Raymer movie. Like Snooki would come out beside.
They'd be DTF. They'd be scary for a completely different reason.
A whole club back
there. What is that? GTL. They're gonna GTL and then they're DTF.
Because British kids sound smart already. Like they're 7 years old and they already sound much smarter than me. And so I figured that they're already dangerous. Like this is a terrible idea. Why'd you buy that house, Charlie? That's a terrible idea with all those British kids back there.
They're very free.
Is that on the house listing? Like 3 bedrooms, 8 British kids.
Like, too many British kids. I'm looking for around 2 or 3 at most.
Yeah.
Out of my price range.
Someone's got to clean the chimney.
Exactly. Someone's gonna dance with these penguins. I don't know what we're supposed to do.
So good. So one cool thing that happened to me today. One of the podcasts that I listen to, I'm a huge fan of. It's M of One, M as in master. So find them, M of the number 1 podcast.com, and we'll leave a link on the show notes. They were actually recording their show tonight, and I guess their guest stood them up. I think it was Daniel Thron was supposed to be on their show.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, dude. That was really
embarrassing. But instead they let some of their audience in, and so I crashed their podcast. And in repayment, and in asking for forgiveness, I am going to give them a shout out. M of One podcast. Yeah, thanks guys. That was a lot of fun. It's really neat to when you listen to a podcast for such a long time, and you actually meet the people that are actually producing it. It's really cool, especially when they're really, really cool people. Unlike this show, because Charlie keeps leaving the show for some reason.
He's going on the Master One podcast.
They actually locked his computer up.
Or it's those kids.
Yeah, I knew it, see?
They're pulling all his wires. Bing bong. Can we check your internet? It's like midnight. Shouldn't you be in bed right now? But today I did have one of those moments of, it was like a revelation of just how cool it is to be an artist these days. So here I am, working on my iPad Pro, drawing in Procreate, which they came out with some updates. Daniel, have you heard of Procreate yet?
I've not used Procreate. Actually, the first time I heard about it was in listening to back episodes of this podcast. So not up to date on it really at all.
But yeah, those guys, they're actually a crew in Australia somewhere. Go figure. Oh yeah, speaking of which, remind me later about our Aussie friends. But yeah, I'm drawing in Procreate. I finished doing all the drawing and inking and coloring for my comic strip, robotsandaliens.com.
Wow.
And then I saved it. I exported the PSD to Google Drive, and by the time I had Photoshop up, Procreate was up, and I was like, "Wow, that's..." Or not Procreate, but the Photoshop file that I created and someone's asking me where my Cubs hat is at. That's what happens when you create a hotline bling.
You get the trolls that come out.
Yeah, they're like, no, we don't like the slick.
Well, they just distracted. Yeah, distracted by the slick hair.
So then I exported the PSD, saved it, opened it up in Photoshop, started doing the text, and then I realized that I was listening to a podcast on my phone. Meanwhile, I'm texting my friends, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm doing research for the show. I'm doing all this stuff all at the same time. And then I wondered, man, how cool is it to be an artist today?
Mm-hmm.
Everything just seems so big. And then, I mean, just the simple, and then I was going to get ready for lunch. And I was like, oh, time to clean up. And literally all I did was stand up. There was no paints. There was no inks. There was no brushes all over the place. Like, this is literally my pencil, my brush, my inking brush, my paintbrush,
Your research tool.
my research tool, everything.
My time-wasting device, all conveniently located in the same place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, how exciting is it? Have you guys had a moment like that at all yet?
Yeah.
Well, Jack, Jack, you still actually paint or draw with pen and inks, yeah?
Yeah, I do a lot,
Right.
but I do love the iPad, and I
Right.
like. I've had those moments when it especially hits me like when everything. And it makes it sound like it doesn't happen that often, which maybe is true, but I had those moments like when everything works so well, and like you're like, oh my god, that just appeared over there, and I can send that from my phone to my TV back to and I can listen to this while doing that, kind of like what Carlos just described. But yeah, I do still do a lot of just doodling with pencils or pen and ink, and I do love that, but there are some cons to that, as Carlos described.
I was like, I haven't. I so rarely draw like on paper with pen anymore that when I do it, my hand cramps instantaneously. Like I become so weak. Like I'm ashamed of myself. Like trying to just trying to sketch out. Oh, I just want to do an idea sort of like this on a napkin, and halfway through, I'm like, I'm gonna have to catch up with this one later. I have to do this in Photoshop, otherwise I'm going to go to the hospital for carpal tunnel syndrome just for drawing one thing. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, no, I mean, like I'm a total. What's terrible is like I'm a total Luddite when it comes to anything new with computers at all. But I also don't use natural media anymore. So I only paint in Photoshop, and I've been painting in Photoshop for maybe 20 years, and I don't really know how to use the program very well. I will.
No one really does, Daniel.
Like I'll turn over a file with 500 layers, and people are like, dude, you should maybe use some masking layers or something like that, and just make this a little simpler. I'm like, I should really watch a YouTube video on how to do that.
But so wait, help me understand, because aren't you a matte painter?
Yeah,
I'm a really lazy matte painter. Yeah.
Wait, that blows my mind, Daniel. How? You should be the Photoshop guru.
Daniel, have you heard of
really?
Daniel? Have you heard of undo?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I heard that like up to 3 levels of that now. That was true. I started in Photoshop 3. Was it 3.0, whatever it was? Well, like just before they actually had real undos, right? Or layers. Actually, they didn't have layers, and layers came out, right? And then they updated the whole thing, and I was totally pissed off. I was like,
Yep,
I can't use this.
What have they
It's so
done?
confusing.
No one will ever use that.
This is the most ludicrous thing. Yeah, and this is still true today. Like it's utterly ridiculous. Every time like CS updates and like add some new bell or whistle, I actually get grayer. I start getting much more crotchety with every update. It's really, really terrible.
Yeah. And one of the things that they need to figure out is if you have plugins that, because there's brushes that you buy. There's this one thing that I have called Colorus that I use to help pick colors, and there's plugins that I bought. that I have installed, and then every time they do one of these massive updates, like the latest one, where it warns you we're about to uninstall all your junk and we're going to reinstall everything fresh. When they do that, it takes all the plugins out. So then you have to go and find everything, and you better have had, saved your serial number and all that stuff. But yeah, it gets crazy.
That's like if they showed up, they're like, we're going to repaint your house, and none of your furniture will be here when they come back.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I get totally stuck in the mud over the stuff that I use. Like I won't update to Windows 10. Like I'm terrible.
Oh,
yeah, it's
don't,
I'm terrified of change.
Don't do that ever.
It's just fine.
It's literally because of Windows 10 that I want to get rid of my Wacom tablet.
Don't listen to the Mac user over there.
Don't even get me started on that garbage.
No, everything's fine with Windows 10.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Moving on.
How about you, Charlie? How do you work? What's your scene?
What's my scene?
Yeah, how do you work?
I'm on Windows, and I'm a myriad of programs. I do like my Photoshops, and I'm a 3D guy, so I'm all about Maya and Max. Real-time gaming is like Unreal and Unity, VR platform, stuff like that, as well as I just added Marvelous Designer to my repertoire. So now I'm building whole digital garment.
Fashion designer.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. Yeah, so I mean I love everything. I tend to love too much programs, but it's cool.
Is that how you started, or did you start as a natural media artist or a sculptor?
I started out as a 3D artist, more for film, like a generalist. My degree was in media arts and animation, so it was kind of like a generalist degree. You learned a little bit of everything, and then it allowed you to branch off into whatever you want. I think that's how like all three of us, Carlos, and Jack, both all have the same degree from the same school, and we all branched off into whatever we want and moved back and forth. I mean,
it's great to be able to bridge between everything. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. I spent years in the game industry, and now I'm in more of the experiential field, VR and motion graphics and for commercials and stuff like that. And beforehand, it was all video game stuff. But I didn't go.
I was in video game. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I worked at this joint, Looking Glass Studios, and we did like Thief and System Shock and all that kind of jazz. Yeah.
Thief is amazing.
Yeah, some fun game. Yeah, I directed all the cutscenes for that. I did all those painted cutscenes with some really good people, Jen Rabota and Josh Randall and guys like that. Mark Lazat was the art director on the whole thing, and then we worked together. Super great. Oh, yeah. Really, really talented people. No.
We'll have to dive into that in a little bit. Yeah, cool.
No.
So you said you were working at a place called Looking Glass. What was the first place that let you do art for a living?
Looking Glass. Yeah, before that I was working at Blockbuster Video.
Ooh. Oh, so you've always been into movies.
That's an art.
It's true. Working at Blockbuster is like that's you want it to be like the Tarantino dream of just like he works.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But really, like it was so boring because like the main job to do there is like you go around with a scanning gun, you just like scan the bottom of our videotape to see what's actually not been stolen yet, and I was doing this till like 2 in the morning, and I was standing there with a stack of videotapes, and I actually fell asleep standing up and almost broke my nose on like the video card, and nobody that I was working with noticed at all.
Because they were all sleeping standing up too.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, dude. Yeah. So off of that, awesome. I ended up working at Looking Glass because I was splitting a place with a bunch of guys, and one of them was already working at Looking Glass, my friend Glenn, and he knew that I drew and I wanted to become some semi-professional guy, and he wanted to bring me in to interview with everybody there, and then the week before I went in to interview, he's okay now, but he had basically a stroke. And was totally knocked out of the game. And so when I ended up going and talking with them, they didn't have anybody else, and I started working on all of his stuff that while he was in the hospital he couldn't work on, and so like off of that I started art directing for their golf game they made and stuff like that, and slowly worked into everything else. But it was a really weird circumstance, And now Glenn's fine. He's working, he's doing great stuff, and still in the computer field and all that jazz. But it's a really weird intro to being a professional. Yeah.
Way to hang in there, Glenn.
No.
Yeah.
No, he's a great dude. He's one of my best friends when I was growing up, and it was just it was such a he's such he was an incredibly talented guy, still is. But like for a while, when I was there, I was like, I had no experience literally at all with any of the stuff that I was being plugged into, and I just lied my ass off. I was just like, oh yeah, no, I can totally do that. I know Photoshop. I know whatever you're putting me to do.
Wow.
And then literally, I just had to like just utterly fake it for a month before I could come up to speed on anything. I had only been a traditional artist up till that point. So.
Is that the only time? Well, any of you guys on the panel, have you guys ever come across that situation where you had to lie to get the job, and then when you're there, you're like, I'll figure it out?
Yeah, mine was a little bit different. I didn't have to lie to get it, but I had to lie to keep it. It was like, I learned on a different software than was being used. I learned on a different operating system than was being used. And I only had limited experience in, I started off in hair simulation, and I had limited experience. And I had never even used Linux before, and they sit me down at this computer, and they're like, okay, well, we'll just show you how to launch Maya because it's a little different on our system, and then, start showing us some samples. And I was like,
yeah, you got it.
I never used Maya because I learned on 3D Studio. I had never used Linux, and they're like typing stuff into a console like hackers and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? He literally launches Maya, and he goes, okay, well, I'll stop by in a couple of hours. And I was like, that moment of like color draining from your face and panic.
Yeah.
Like immediately go to the internet and you're like, Maya tutorials. Like I need to work real hard to not lose this job.
And now Jack's beard is actually being simulated for this program. It's real time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Jack, this is so awesome. What did you do? Stall your ass off that day?
It was a lot of stalling. I mean, I figured out some basics just because some certain things were similar to 3D Studio. There happened to be a guy next to me who put up with my bullshit. I don't know. He felt bad for me or something. I kept asking him questions. And I mean, this was before there was YouTube and all the stuff where you could just go look up tutorial videos. So I had to order a bunch of DVDs online of like Maya tutorials, and not just Maya. Like I didn't need to just know basics. I needed to like get in there and do something pretty specific.
Yeah, like hair, right? So then you had to just do the hair and fur, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Super ex-girlfriend.
I would love to see
my super ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think. Yeah, which I don't even think is at the bottom of the dollar bins anymore. So.
Explain to people what Blockbuster is.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned about 4 obsolete things in that story. It was like videotapes.
Every 10 seconds. Yeah, dude. Yeah,
like videotapes, Blockbuster, sleeping.
Yeah, I don't miss Blockbuster, but I definitely miss like the concept of video stores. I thought that was really great, and because like video stores and like it's like bookstores are awesome because you get to just go and talk to people who like books. You already know that they like books because you're in a bookstore, and so you can just chit chat with people. And that's what I miss about video stores. It's just like Jack knows, like I will literally talk for 10 hours about any given movie at all, like Goonies 3, whatever you need. And that was like the one acceptable place. Like Blockbuster was the one acceptable place where I could do that, and it's no longer true. Now I'm just a ranting dude on the internet.
So I wanted to talk about this real quick too, just how things change and basically paper and pencils becoming obsolete. Our friends over at Procreate, they have this new thing coming out, or I think it's already out. It's called Procreate Pocket, and just for the record, the guys who make Procreate, I can't remember their name, but I'll figure it out right now. But they have this thing, Procreate Pocket, and you can run Procreate, the drawing app, on your phone, and you know how their interface is very minimalistic on the iPad.
Yeah.
But on the iPhone, you're not going to have, if you have a color picker or whatever, it's going to take up tons of space on your phone. So what they did is, if you have an iPhone and an iWatch or an Apple Watch, you can select the colors off of your watch and paint with it on your iPhone.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
Really?
Can we talk about how cool today is?
Well, I think it's totally awesome. I think it's totally amazing. I think that the thing that I run into a lot now, it's like, I think like what Charlie's saying. It's like it's really good to be. It's definitely really good to be a generalist and think like a generalist, because you can cross-platform and be applicable anywhere. But like a lot of this new technology essentially makes it, and I'm all for it, but it makes it easy to be pretty good. And that, I think, it's like, how like whatever Instagram has like those filters that you can run for your photos, and it makes virtually everything look kind of cool, right? And it sort of ends up flooding the market a little bit, I think. And I like you don't get too many, like there aren't too many artists that I know now, like even like with photography, where like they're really standout artists. Like it's just everyone can kind of do this a little bit, and so it takes a little bit of the shine off the apple. And or at least like the way that people think about doing this stuff. And I know that like anyone who's worked in visual effects runs into the like the conception that doing CG is somehow really, really easy. Like you're just you just go and push buttons and it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I think that in a way that's true enough that you end up with lots of bad CG now. Like that's just all over the place. And it's easy for the studios to plug in like pipelines of simple, presets that everyone's okay with, and it's all good. But it ends up with a lot of like non-unique looking material ending up in movies. And so that's my only like. I don't want to be like I love new technology. I'm totally amazed by that. But I'm not a fan of how it's being applied by the industry, I guess. That's the kind of stuff I'm worried about.
Similarly, we talked to a lot of 3D artists on this show that say that either how could you say this? The guys that do 2D and 2D animation feel like they have a better grasp of the 3D rather than like the 3D guys with no 2D or illustrative capabilities at all.
Right.
They feel like they want to go back and learn how to draw because they think it'll be able to help their 3D. I guess 2D might be the foundation that helps take the 3D to the next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of believe that, just because like when you're animating 2D stuff, like you really have to think about what looks right, and I think that the more you train yourself in that way, the better off. Like the greatest thing about new technology is like there's so much less in the way of like being an artist now is no longer a technological thing to do. Like when I was first learning to draw in Photoshop, like that was like I'm left-handed, but I'm right-handed with the mouse. I'm trying to paint right-handed with the mouse, and just like it's just a mess, And and the few times I've ever tried to learn 3D, it's like, it's like hitting a giant wall of math for me. But now, like sculpting tools are much more like actual sculpting, and drawing tools are like actual drawing. And I think that super accessibility is like that's the dream. So I'm totally all for that. And like, but I think that like that's no surprise that it comes back around like actually getting your own chops together. Like it's saying like, I know how like when someone is running across a room, and if I can animate that in 2D, I know what the weight of their body looks like because I did it myself, and I didn't like run that in an algorithm. Then you're probably going to end up making better choices in what you're doing, and then thinking harder about what you're trying to produce.
Yeah.
Guys, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Nope, you go ahead.
No, you go. I was thinking that like, I've had the experience from back when I was teaching for a while, that like. I can always pick out the students who are a little bit more inclined to pick up the beginning modeling class and the intermediate modeling class that I would teach based on their drawing ability in their drawing classes. So I very quickly made it a point to hook up with the life drawing teacher and whatnot, so that I can kind of see and kind of get a heads up beforehand of what their capabilities were, and just seemed more inclined. It seemed like it picked it up a little bit better, So I do think there's a little bit to it. Although I have had the occasional students that were like amazing at 2D and knew they were pretty good at 2D, and it kind of held them back a little bit when they were learning 3D because they would say the whole. And well, it's just 3D. They almost like they have a chip on their shoulder, which I would think they were trying to get that later on in their career,
right?
And not like in college, but like they were a little bit more lazy to learn 3D because they just felt they'd be better. It was
Charlie. I'm totally
really
guilty of exactly what you're talking about. By the way, I want to let you know that like you're calling me out on something that I do. Like that's exactly true. Like I'm just like I can fake this. That's why I didn't learn 3D. Like that's totally why I didn't learn 3D.
Opening.
Like I said, lazy matte painter, man. Lazy matte painter.
Like, why are you opening After Effects? Wait a minute. Why is this only panning in Word? Wait a minute. This is not 3D.
That's interesting, Daniel. So you don't do any 3D at all?
I mean, I work with lots of 3D guys, and I understand the language of it, but
sure.
I don't do it. Yeah, and which is now like totally unheard of for any modern matte painter. Obviously, it works in 3D, and you have to work in 3D. And like I was able to I feel I'm a pretty good painter, and I was able to skate by on knowing a bunch of tricks. But basically, and I think Jack can vouch for this being at DD, like I was the kind of guy that had to partner up with somebody. Like I was the good buddy cop, but like I was never able to handle all those things at once myself.
You're totally busting my bubble here, Daniel. I had so many questions.
Yeah, dude, I would love you out. Terrible.
In my class,
I got to work with incredible people.
Yeah. We can't even talk about Photoshop layers.
Dude, I got a section on matte painting, and I was like, yes, he's going to be on. I'm going to get all my questions answered with a weird gap for myself of like the combination of 3D and 2D with matte painting, and how if you're painting over boxes or whatever you do. Right. You had a buddy. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, no, like I've definitely been like we've done like I worked on when we worked on Zodiac, right? Mm-hmm. The doing all the very complicated projection work for that, and we did like I worked with awesome people, and it turned out beautifully, I thought. But in terms of what I would do, I mean, they would hand me a frame, and I would paint the frame, and I would do the best job I could do with that. Then they reproject it, and I'd paint a little bit more and stuff like this. But like, I'm one of those guys that's just caught in the like I started a little bit too early on one end of the tech, to have transitioned fully into what it is now. And I'm not really a map painter anymore. I'm not the past like year and a half. I've been following filmmaking and directing and all this other stuff. And it's incredibly handy to know all this stuff, when I'm shooting.
Yeah.
But I think that VFX is it's such a different industry now than when I was really working in the middle of it. In order to really get back into it, I would have to school myself pretty severely to catch up, because people are extraordinary at doing things that I can't, that I would struggle to learn now. I think I'm just too old and old school to pick it up again.
Would you say it's harder now, or is it, or would you say it's gotten a little easier, or is it just now it's just 3 is totally taking over?
Yeah, no, it's it's a different mindset of how to approach stuff, and because like right now VFX is very, very pipeline driven, and it requires that you be very, very specifically good at specific things. Whereas when we were working in commercials at DD, like that was fly by the seat of your pants, figure it out style work.
Yep.
And for me, that's more rewarding and artistically exciting. And it's just not common work. Outside of maybe it's still sort of I was working on. It became it became a little bit technical, a little bit less interesting to work in. We were still working with incredibly awesome people, and DD was packed with like the greatest people to hang out with I've ever been at. But the work itself became more and more bland, and more technical, and so I sort of just started leaning out of it.
I totally agree with that.
So I'm gonna run down some movies that you've worked on, and this is just the visual effects. We will put Daniel's IMDb on the show notes, but all right, we're gonna go from 2007 up. Zodiac, Extreme, Zodiac, Extreme Biography of Santa. What's
Classic.
You guys, how deep did you guys go on Santa? Was he hanging out with the
Look it up online, man. That's by my friend Aaron drinking that. It's pretty hilarious. That's the dark side of Santa right there. That's the good business.
G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra.
Classic.
2012. He did that in 2009.
Yeah, Charming Tater.
2012.
That was fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief.
The Lightning Thief. Yeah.
I heard those end up being really good though, right? Didn't that warrant another?
They did, yeah.
Percy? Yeah.
Yeah, they kept on going with that.
They kept going.
We did some great effects for that. I was really proud of that stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool. The A-Team, which
yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed.
I like that movie, dude. I think that's Joe Carnahan did that, and he was a really fun guy to work with. He is he is definitely he loves making movies, and he is just a ridiculous, funny, energetic dude. And when we went to go see he invited just the VFX guys to the screening on that thing. And he knew it was it's A-Team. It's not I'm not making Citizen Kane, but he gave this long introduction, and he was just sort of listen, I just want I want to have a special screening for you guys because you did an amazing job, and you really, I think, brought a new level of artistry to what we were trying to do here, because this is more than just a movie. We feel this is a statement, and that this is from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you, and so without further ado, Marmaduke. Yeah, it was just totally ridiculous. He had the proper attitude towards working on a movie like that, and it really spread throughout all the crew. It was absolutely awesome. Very, very silly, very funny movie.
This is our link together as well as Jack. Tron Legacy.
Oh yeah, man.
You guys
Beautiful
worked on the
looking
movie. I worked on the site. Yeah, I thought it was a I thought it was a
I watch that
wonderful
all the time.
movie.
Yeah, it's one of my faves.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I always ask, especially with the visual effects artists, if you have a motorcycle with no moving parts, where the hell does the smoke come from?
Wow.
All right, hang on. After Dan responds, I'm going to finally give you the input on this.
Oh,
This is it.
yes.
Don't wait for me, man. You got the good
They
story.
got a new smoke. They got a new smoke plug-in as the only.
Well, okay. I don't actually have an answer, but that actually did come up several times in the development of that project, and because people said the exact same thing, like, why would you have smoke if it's a digital bike? And the argument was it's a simulation world, so why would we not also simulate
Simulated smoke?
Exactly.
Right.
Like, why are you simulating a bike in the first place? So why can't you just like fly around in a box? Doesn't make any difference.
Why not just exactly? The dude could be like in this suit that
Just
puts
flying.
him in the position.
The bike is rendering smoke in real time.
Yeah.
It's just showing off what an awesome rig it's running on. Just like, yeah, dude, just look at this.
So let's talk about let's further investigate that stance.
That's so awesome.
I'll play devil's advocate.
We're gonna go into some theories here, right? So people say with the advent of virtual reality, who's to say that virtual reality hasn't already gotten to the point where we aren't in virtual reality right now, right?
Right.
Elon Musk said that very thing, right?
Right. So, if we are in a virtual world, or you have the power to create a virtual world, number one, I'll give you the smoke for now, just because I need to make this point. Why make ugly people?
So you know what pretty looks like.
Nice.
Touche.
How would you know? If everyone looked like Suzanne Summers in 1979.
People have weird taste.
Yeah, they do say there's someone out there for everyone.
And then mess it up for the smart.
No, but hang on. I'll bite. So no. So first, I mean, aside from the fact that ugly is subjective and whatever, if we're talking about like a self-contained system that has a set of rules, I mean, from a programmer or the God standpoint, like, who's to say what ugly is? I mean, ugly might be equally as valid in another person's eye. The whole eye of the beholder thing. Because it's like, if you follow, like, the theories of evolution, we evolved to find things that are beautiful that are beneficial to us, or that, indicate some sort of health benefit, or a place we want to settle, or someone we want to mate with. I mean, hence the reason we think, like, shell and sand-covered beaches are beautiful, but to sea creatures, that's a graveyard. I mean, that's mutilated, like, crushed up dead bodies. Like, you know what I mean? Beauty is kind of completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of, mechanics of a world. It's totally like an attraction behavior of what I go to that helps me, to simplify it. So, I don't know. I think that's just an inherent part of any mechanical system that has any sort of rules.
Also, yeah, you just can't have any kind of function. It's like with like the concept of heaven or hell, right? If you have absolutely perfect, flawless, say hell is just the most pain you could possibly experience all the time, right? And if that's happening to you for an infinity of time because you've been damned for doing whatever you've been damned for doing, then that just becomes the baseline of your experience, and it's no longer anything. Like, you're just like, okay, well, this is normal, and it's no longer hell because it's just what you're experiencing. It's just like, oh, this is normal for me, and that's fine. Whereas, like, if anything even remotely slightly better, like the flames are not quite as hot, like suddenly like you're like, oh my god, that's the best feeling I've ever had, you know. Like and suddenly it's heaven. So like you can't like you're just like, hell, it's definitely amazing, man. Sometimes the flames aren't that hot, and you feel incredible. Like, and so with things like beauty in the Tron world, like if you don't have like meaningful variation between things, like it's just going to turn into a gray soup. Like everything, like you have to be able to go like, all right, well, you know, it's amazing looking, but it's not that amazing looking, you know. And adding things like adding things like smoke, you know, adds a certain character to what you're doing that produces separation and sort of a deeper reality of your experience. And so I think that's like when if you're in a totally computer simulated world, like you would need things to be imperfect so that you could have an experience in the first place.
Or like Agent Smith explained to Morpheus in the Matrix when Morpheus was chained to the chair, and in a weird way, Agent Smith wiped off the sweat from Morpheus's head and sniffed it.
Right.
He goes, "We tried to give you the perfect world, but you guys kept refusing it. You guys like pain. You guys like imperfection." So, if we were in the Matrix world, that's why. It's because we need those scales, because if everything is perfect, like imagine you have a really good day, like all of a sudden you start taking it for granted.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And then if if your oatmeal isn't warm enough, all of a sudden you think perfect oatmeal is just crappy.
Right. Well, it's like when it's like when people want to like and guys or women are attracted to like super hot people. Like I want to date this really really hot girl. Like that lasts for that like the novelty of that lasts for like 2 weeks. And if after that person is not interesting, you are going to be totally bored. Like you're like if they're not an interesting person, it's going to suck. You know, like, oh, this incredibly handsome dude, oh my god, and then he has zero to say, and it's it's boring to talk to him. Then it doesn't matter how cutting he is, it totally sucks. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so like that's I totally I'm definitely like artistically of the mindset of like stop trying to remove flaws. Like flaws are fantastic.
Right.
Like that's what adds like breadth and beauty and real like real novelty, not just sort of surface novelty. It's just like when they went in and like with Blade Runner, right? When they re-released the new Blade Runner, which actually I really liked the final cut they did. But there's this great scene when Harrison Ford goes in to talk to the dude that made the robot snake that the stripper uses or whatever it is, and the dubbing is terrible. Like it's the worst dubbing you've ever seen. Where it's just like Harrison Ford is making mouth movements, but what he is saying isn't even lining up with that. Like when he's talking, his mouth closed, it's totally hideous. And then they changed it. They went in, they CG'd in a new mouth that looks perfect, and he's actually saying the words he's supposed to. And it's just like, oh shit. Like, now it looks completely and not notable at all. Or the same thing in another Ridley Scott movie, in Alien, which is one of my favorite movies ever. When they knock the head off the robot, right? And they're setting the head down. They're going to re-plug the head back in, and there's this shot where they have this rubber head, and it looks totally fake, and they're sticking it down the ground, and then it just jump cuts to the actual guy with his head stuck through the floor. It just jump cuts right to it, and they're like, I don't care. So what? And like every time I see it, I'm like, please never fix that. Like that's the greatest thing in this movie. The real guy. Like I would hate that. Like I always want to see more more handmaidenness to stuff. And like if this were a virtual world, I would run that all the time. I would definitely want to because like if everything is really smooth and really really perfect, then it's gonna be really friggin' dull after a while. And like if things are busted, then become really interesting. think that's just true across the board for everything.
Similarly, like when you're watching a movie and they have a close-up of the guy and he says, "You mother effer," but then they dub it over and it says, "You frisky children," you know? Like,
did you ever see Repo Man? The movie Repo Man? Repo Man has the greatest dub I've ever seen. Actually, one of the two. Where Harry Dean Stanton gets out of the car and I forgot what he just swears up a storm. He's just absolutely swearing his head off. And then if you watch that on AMC, he says, "Gypsy Farmer Melon Penguin Box." That's actually better. I wish I had gotten out of the car and said that. That would have been much more powerful.
They used to play that version on USA. They used to.
That's so wonderful.
Gypsy Farmer.
Oh man, dude! Like that in the Big Lebowski when what's it? I guess this is what happens when you what is it? Meet a stranger in the Alps is the new line. It's like, "This is what happens, Donnie. This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps." What? This is what happens when you fry scrambled eggs. He's lost his mind.
So good.
Yeah, dude, I love that stuff.
So after Tron, you got to work on Transformers: Dark of the Moon.
Oh yes, yes. Yep.
And then Real Steel.
Yeah, and I actually really like that movie. I think it's.
I like that one too.
Yeah, it's a corny movie, but it's a good, cute corny movie. I like that one.
Hugh Jackman was good.
Yeah,
Is it Sharknado corny or?
No.
No, it's like yeah, it's like Spielberg overdoes it corny. Like it's a little bit like, here's a cute kid and he likes robots and it's a little bit heavy-handed and that stuff, but it's still got it going on. It still works. And the robot's really cool. The robots work really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Really good. I like the movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
And then a few more. You did, or you helped out with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I have not seen, but I have heard so many good things about it.
Really?
I'm trying to watch the original, and I don't have a lot of time to read, let alone sit down and read for 2 hours.
Then watch the new one and be done with it.
No, I want to watch the original. I want to watch the original and then watch the new one because I don't want the new one to ruin the original.
Right.
And then after that, you worked on Spoiler,
which I directed. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that your first director?
Yeah, that's my it's a short. It's only 20 minutes long, but that was my first live action directed thing that was widely seen. Not hugely widely seen, but it got out there, and that was it's a zombie movie, and but it did pretty well, and that ended up with me hooking up with Anonymous Content, who is we continue to try to develop that as like a show essentially, and trying to get that together. Okay. Which is I'm very proud of that short. It's really good. It's turned out really well. I worked with some awesome dudes. Lots of people I worked with on that I've known for maybe 30 years. Really good friends of mine, and we all just jammed this thing out. It was like that was the perfect because everyone we all work in visual effects, so we get all the visual effects more or less for free. Everyone's working at the top of their game, and we were able to shoot with we shot with 7Ds, Canon 7Ds.
Oh, nice.
And
I was waiting for you to say like iPhone 3S's or something.
Yeah, dude, it's along the same. Actually, I think the latest iPhone is pretty comparable to what we were shooting on. And it's so amazing that this stuff is cheap to shoot with now. It's just absolutely fantastic. Yeah. You can go and make a feature for. It used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a feature, and now you could easily make one for like $15,000 or less.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's really, really amazing, and it looks fantastic.
What was it that and the last movie on the list was Oblivion?
Oh, right. Yeah.
But I wanted to get back to what was it? What is it about movies or storytelling that makes you want to become that made you want to become a director?
Well, like there's two bits to that. Like I think that loving watching movies and loving making movies are two different things, you know.
Yeah.
And because like I have friends who thought they wanted to be directors, and then when they finally got to direct, they were like, "This kind of stinks," you know. This
I
is
want to
not
be a map painter again.
exactly, you know. And so like loving watching movies for me is like that's the root of everything. Just because like you know, when I saw, you know, French Connection when I was like 11 years old, and Alien when I was 8 years old, and stuff like this, and that's dominated like that's I sort of process everything I think about or feel through movies in some way. Like I'm utterly obsessed with them. Um, and and
Please Google Blockbuster.
right. But making movies is a totally separate scene because that is like the reason what I like about that is it's so teamwork oriented. Like it's like being on a great baseball team. You know, if you have a good crew, and it's this on the fly creativity under pressure with a team is just one of the most satisfying things to be doing. And I think that there are probably I don't know. There's only like 2 or 3 times in my life outside of making movies where I felt that kind of camaraderie. And like anybody who's done movies or worked in stage and stuff like that, like you become really, really, really close friends very quickly with a great crew, and it becomes like a really personal event to do this kind of stuff. And so for me, like one of the reasons I stayed in special effects or visual effects so long is because it has a lot of that. At least it did for a long time, and especially at Digital Domain when it was at its height. Like it was this real like you know you're in the trenches. You only got like 15 people to put this together with, and you really have to think on your feet. And it's like it really creates like great friendships and lots of respect and incredible work and fast decisions. And that's what I love about making movies in general, whether you're directing or whether you're working in VFX.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And I wanted to touch on this real quick because your little 20-minute film, spoiler, got nominated a couple times for some awards.
Oh yeah, no, it did pretty well. And yeah, it was interesting because I'd never done the film festival circuit or anything like that before, and I don't think I would do that now. I don't think it would. Like film festivals are really fun to go to, but like when we talk about how the industry has advanced, technologically and whatnot, like the greatest thing in the world is like you have such a direct connection to your niche audience. It's mind blowing. Like you can get hundreds of, like 100,000 people to see your movie, within a week and a half just by putting it up on Vimeo and, sending it to the right people and sending it to the right outlets. And like you could, like when you go to a film festival, say you enter, 50 or 100 film festivals, right? You get into 25 of them, and most of them are very, very small, and the only people that show up are the people that your film's in competition with, and it just gets a little draggy, because it's just not any fun to sit there and just, no one's actually watching your movie, and you're not really watching their movie. You're just waiting for the thing to go by, whereas like if and I mean, like I met plenty of cool people, and I don't mean any disrespect, but I mean like that's like no one's coming there to see, like you go to a film festival and any given, especially in the shorts program, like the shorts for a long time were notorious for just being terrible. Like no one was making any good shorts at all, and so it would just be sort of like obligatory and sad to be doing these things. Whereas now, like the people that watch your movie are the people that want to be watching your movie, which is what you want in the first place.
Right.
And I really feel like that's the greatest transition that has happened. Is it's no longer a situation where you're just sort of, because I mean, like going to film festivals for most people is, I don't want to sound mean, but like because this is true for me as well. It's like if you're the kind of person like myself, who's just like I need some validation that I did something worthwhile. It's in a film festival. Like that's not a healthy way to look at your work. And you should just want to say like I'm putting my work out there. I do want people to see it, and I hope that they enjoy it, and just leave it at that instead of worrying about whether you are perceived as a filmmaker or perceived in a self-important way. And it's just, like now it's just easier to get like your stuff out because the stuff is the important thing. Like getting your stuff seen is the important thing, not being famous for it or not being up on stage to do whatever. And it's been more and more satisfying working in that environment than it ever was when I was younger. And so I think that that's totally terrific. It's cheaper. You get a great look for no money. You can get like cameras with decent lenses for under $2,000, and it's absolutely tremendous working in short film and in low budget film now.
Can you make a living making short films, or is it just one of those things where it's a hobby and it's almost like a full-length feature director trying to get his toes wet in the pool, if you will?
Let's see. I don't know. I think the fair answer is I don't really know.
Yeah.
I think that it will become a common career and a good career to make to be a film director because there's so much need for content right now. It's out of control. And like Vimeo and Hulu and YouTube Red and Netflix and Crackle and blah 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 and Machinima, like there's a zillion outlets for everything that you could possibly want to do. All of it's targeted at exactly the kind of people that you want to be communicating with. Like you can I have a feeling the next it's not entirely true yet, but like in the next 5 years, like that will be as big an industry, making shorter work and developing your own content will be as big and valid as an industry as anything like that VFX was in Los Angeles. Like there's just that much of a need. And so I do have a lot of faith in it. Right now, I don't know. It's not like I'm not making a lot of money doing this stuff, but it's like I do have faith in the idea that it's easier to find the kind of stuff that you want to watch. So you're going to connect with that. You're going to if you're an audience member, you're going to connect with the filmmaker you want to be watching stuff from, and it's not going to be compromised like big studio pictures are. Because visual effects, like you look at Ex Machina, right, which is awesome, it's incredible, right? And that is there's more, and I mean no disrespect to anybody who worked on any of the the big budget stuff this year or whatever, but Ex Machina is a smaller crew. It's more focused in terms of how the movie was made, so they could really spend time on making the stuff they were doing look perfect. And it looked perfect in a way that was unobtrusive. Like, it didn't interrupt the story. You weren't like, oh my god, look at that explosion, or anything like this. Like, you forgot that it was there. It just looked absolutely real and absolutely natural. And that is a lower budget thing to be doing than, another Avengers movie, where the Avengers movies, it's like those are or Civil War or whatever. Like Civil War it's a really good movie and I really enjoyed it. But for the most part, the effects are extraordinary. But you can also see that there's a few that hey, they just got to get them done. And what are you gonna do? And I think that you're gonna you can leave that stuff to the big studios and instead make small stuff that you want to make that's personal to you and get a small team that's focused, that does great looking material, and you'll make more memorable stuff. Like Civil War is a great movie. I'm going to see it probably 10 more times in my life. Like Ex Machina, I'm going to own and watch all the time and constantly reference. Like that's but it's a work of art.
That's such a good movie that I have my phone call me sweetheart.
Dude, yeah, no, like that's the kind of stuff that wasn't like that's not even possible. You couldn't make that movie 10 years ago at all, and now you get movies like that and Under the Skin and all sorts of really strange, super inventive movies that were absolutely out of the ballpark of any indie filmmaker. Like they were not possible to do anything like this. Now they're way more possible, and they're way more notable looking and beautiful than they've ever been before. You know, so I have tremendous faith in that. I have tremendous faith that you're going to be able to see, like, when you go on Netflix, like, it's going to know you so well soon that it's going to, when it introduces movies to you, you can be confident that they're great, rather than, like, oh, if you liked Albert Brooks, maybe you'll like an Adam Sandler movie. Like, well, you know, but soon it will be true. And you'll be able to be a more niche participant in the things that you like.
And what's cool is you're starting to see all of the technology companies and all of the software companies working towards exactly what you said. That's why Apple makes a big deal out of showing different videos, high-quality videos, and then they put on the bottom, recorded on an iPhone. You see the Adobes making things a little more affordable for people to be able to work on things. I pack up my laptop, or I pack my computer bag. These days I can fit 3 computers on there, and I literally have an animation studio, special effects and everything on my back.
Right.
And yeah, it's just everything is moving in that way. And what's even better is you have, like you said, the Hulus, the Yahoos, or not Yahoos, even Yahoo. Yeah, Yahoo is trying to become Yahoo is becoming a content provider. There's that Apple is trying to figure things out. They made it available for people on iTunes. You know, if I'm a recording artist, I can create some music and put it on iTunes and sell it. You know,
right.
So it's very much going that way, and it's exciting for people that have stories to tell.
Well, and sort of like to clarify, like something I said earlier, like where it's just like there's the good and the bad of how this shakes out, right? It's like in one way it's so much easier that acceptable mediocrity is also easier.
Right.
And I guess, I want to refine that to say, like, I don't mean that on smaller end of individual artists. Like, I don't mean to, like, oh, well, now all these guys are just going to just make blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean it more on the Avengers level, where it's just, like, that's the kind of stuff where, people become very plug and play at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And less artistry is visible in stuff that should be mind-blowing, and blockbusters should be mind-blowing, and that's where I see it sort of hurting the business indirectly. Is sort of like it feeds into this idea of, like, well, if anybody can do this stuff, then we'll structure our business so that we can just anyone will do this stuff. And so, like, that's a little bit of a drag. And it's certainly, like, my experience in VFX, like, the Digital Domain was a great example of this. And, like, my experience with DD was tremendous, and I worked with unbelievably talented people there. But I definitely lost my, will to live working on.
Uh-oh. Digital Domain's cutting you off.
Yeah.
Getting filtered.
The game industry.
Uh-oh. So, Daniel, if you can hear us, your internet went a little wonky.
All right, hang on. How about now?
All right,
better?
cool.
You're back.
There we go. Yeah, so, like, that Digital Domain was started with, like, it was a very sort of artistically based group, and then faded into got pressured into being a very corporate, structured thing. And I think that's happened across the board for VFX. And it's made things less interesting in terms of the movies that I watch, and not just in terms of, like, the job itself.
And arguably, you
the
can
real
say the same
exciting
thing.
stuff.
Arguably, you can say the same thing about gaming companies too.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And like the real exciting zone to be in is indie development of games and indie film, because indie film now looks like mega budget film because you have small groups of incredibly talented artists trying to produce art, or you have indie games that are like trying to make new games and actually break out and do things instead of just trying to, do the next massive budgets looks like Grand Theft Auto game. And so, like, if you're getting into the business now, like, if you want to be doing the fresh stuff, don't work for the big companies. Like, do your own small thing and find your audience, because you're going to be so much more satisfied personally, and I think you're going to end up satisfying the people that want to see your stuff more directly than if you were to work on, Avengers 10.
And I wanna kind of point my finger, and you guys chime in right after I say this, but I want to point my finger at all those creative kids that are in school right now as we speak. Yes, it's very cool to work on these big, huge projects that you can say, I worked on Avenger, whatever it was, and I did the next, whatever that was. But we know, because we were all there, when you're young, you have all these ideas and you want to work on your ideas and stuff. Listen, the time is no better than now. Get out there and work on your ideas.
Amen.
Because what's going to happen is your ideas become your portfolio.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that at least you were able to work on your ideas. And you just never know where that goes. Whereas, I'm a big fan of fan art, so take that. But again, I can see the argument contrary to my stance, where if you're going to be spending time to create anything, might as well create your own stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. More so than ever now. Absolutely. Like, it's so like everything is designed to make it as easy as possible for you to get your ideas out there and do it without, like, we don't have to be technically savvy at all in order to get this stuff done. And like Jack knows, I mean, he's published his own books. Like, to have your own stuff out there that is yours is so satisfying. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that that you're forever connected to, that you can be infinitely proud of. Like, definitely do that, and and find the right team to work with. Don't be impressed with big credits on big movies. Like, find your crew and work with a tight, creative, good crew, and you'll be infinitely happier without a doubt.
Exactly. Guys? Jack, you want to chime in, don't you?
Yeah, I was just waiting for Charlie to talk at the same time.
No, I waited this time.
Because we always do that.
I waited, Jack. I waited for you.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I can do nothing but echo that. I mean, I obviously have a fairly long list of working on big projects, so that's kind of been the bulk of my career, and there is absolutely a benefit to that, working at a big studio, and like Van said, I mean, learning from the incredibly talented artists around. I think that is, I mean, that's what's invaluable about that. It's not the credit, it's not the big project, it's understanding the industry as a whole and working with the other incredible artists. But at the end of the day, I mean, come on, we've all sat through, and people do it less and less so, but we've all sat through the credits of films, and you see the people on there, and it's like in the same breath you say how awesome it is to work on this big film, you're also just another name in the thing that goes by. So I mean, if you create something that's independently yours, or independently yours with a team, I mean, that you have creative control and your voice is in, and like Dan said earlier, these projects that are going to become more and more and more personal, I think those are the ones that people are really gravitating to, and those are what what are starting to make a mark. And I mean, I know the pendulum kind of swings as the eras, I think the era of big, as we were talking about earlier with Tron and perfection, I think the era of perfection and big seamless blockbusters is kind of coming to a close for now. And people are sick of that because it's become the norm, and it's not special anymore, and it's totally cold and barren. So people are looking for personal content, and whether that means it's personal because they can actually see how it was made because of its imperfections, or it's personal because it was made by a person like them, or it's personal just because it's a smaller scale project. I don't think any of that really matters. It's all of that is what is driving it now, and it's like you guys are all saying, it's easier than ever to do that. So like, why not take advantage of that?
Chuck?
Yeah, I think I always have a little bit different take on this. I always say, and I think Jack alluded to it too, like, the biggest thing that I think they take away from being over at Digital Domain is the experience of people, and I'm very big on collaboration, and I really feel that, like.
And let me interrupt real super fast, just to say that's a really big reason to go to art schools too.
Yeah.
You can take out Digital Domain and enter art school. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why I'm such a big proponent for even the school we went to. I mean, we have a lot of friends that I hear often go back and forth on whether they liked it or not, and I always allude to the fact of, after I graduated from the school, I still stuck around and kept up with it, and I liked being an observer of seeing these different rings of groups of people that go through there, and have that net group of people that they collabed with. Even if it wasn't like the superstar groups like what we used to have. But I think our school had a run of, like, I would say 10 years, I guess, that was where they had some really innovative. I could be biased, but they had some really innovative students that came through there that went on and did really good things. From coming from such a small school, in Illinois here. But it's funny because, like, last night I had an event I went to. It was a Cinema 4D meetup at Epsilon Taylor, which is a big company here that has a creative house called Dose in it, which does all their, like, creative content. But they also get to do, like, outsourced vendor work too, so they get to do other cool stuff. And I had a guy come up to me. This is the first time this has happened to me, and he was like, "I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you were my judge at Artimation 2 or 3 years ago." And, like, he's totally creative, And I was like, that's cool. But, like, yeah, I went to school with the such and such brothers, and we all kind of took all the same classes, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's, like, one of the lead creatives over at Digital Kitchen here in Chicago, and it was just, like, really interesting. And I was like, man, well, I had a group of friends also that went through and took all the same classes, and Jack had a group of friends that had all the same classes, and Carlos had too big of a group of friends that took all the same classes, but and, like, that is, like, the main thing is experience. So fast forwarding back to after you leave school, one of the things I truly am thankful for is, like, I like the indie thing. I've done the game thing for like 10 years, and I truly believe that, in my opinion, getting with the right group of people when you first start will really set the tone on how well you succeed. And I guess I can even say that can be true if you go the indie route. But I personally, as a developer, get tired of seeing all the bad indie, the ego before the work gets put in. Like I said, I could have a different view of it because like, I'm so thankful for, like, getting in the studio I got in in the beginning, because I didn't know anything about game. I went to school for film, and I just knew throw the polys at it and it's gonna look amazing. And then had to realize the reverse. I had the old crap moment, which now I do have to say. I had the old crap moment like Jack did, or you did, Daniel, of like, sitting down to the computer and knowing Max but not knowing Maya, and then being like, yeah, so we got these things we want you to do. They have to look photorealistic. You have to do this, and this. But like, it's the people that were there, man. And like one of the guys I watched last night was my old lead there, and he was over at Dose. He's the creative director over there, and like, it's just like, if I didn't have that guy like yelling at me, about making sure my stuff is on the grid for my UVs, and like, who would? And maybe you can find that with a small indie team or whatever like that. But make sure you put good people around you. So it's so easy to put the wrong type of experience around you. So I guess the whole thing could come full circle.
And I guess that's the other side of social media. Yeah, it's real easy to create stuff and put it out there, but it's really easy to get it set on fire too. Like, people would definitely let you know. For example, if you made something and you submit it to any kind of film festival, or if you put it on YouTube and people are telling you, well, people are going to tell you that things suck no matter if they're good or bad, so YouTube might be a really bad way of doing that. But show it to some people. There's a lot of really cool professionals out there that will take a look at your stuff.
Yeah.
And give you feedback, and that's what's cool. Again, it's developing relationships, whether you're in school, whether you're in digital domain. And one of the topic that we were talking about on the Master of One podcast earlier today was going to different not functions, but conferences. Going to different conferences. So if you're working on something, SIGGRAPH is about to happen in a few weeks. Go there. Have your thing on your iPad. Have your movie on your iPad. Show it to people.
Yeah, show whatever you got all the time. Absolutely.
Right. Don't be creepy, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go and show people. And then, this industry, the professionals like to see the independents working on stuff and see what's the latest and greatest and how they're doing things.
Right.
They will give you constructive criticism, and then you'll get a nice once you get all of the feedback, there might be a lot of the professionals will give you the same feedback, and if 5 people point out one thing, then you know exactly what to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like because I think the greatest thing about art schools is learning. Like the biggest thing you can learn really at art school is learning to deal with critiques, and learn to actually get a good sense of your own work and what you're trying, like, because everyone, it's like what you said with YouTube, man. It's just like you put up a movie on YouTube, first 10 comments before, like within 10 seconds before people can even finish watching it, they're like, "This sucks, I hate you, and you're terrible," blah blah blah. Like, it's instantaneous. And
we get thumbs down while the show was happening.
Exactly. Before the show was on, I hated it. It was terrible. And like that having this sort of like being able to go and show your stuff confidently all the time makes you do better stuff, because you understand the value of criticism instead of just being hurt by it or just being knocked out by it. And because like, who cares if someone doesn't like your stuff, whatever. But there may be something in what they said that's valuable, even if they're a dick about it. Like, I mean, like you can be like, okay, the guy was a total jerk, but I want quite happening, and I got to figure out what I'm doing and how that's happening, instead of just being, feeling bad that people didn't like your work. You can process it better. And if people really, really love your work, you still have a bounty honest viewpoint and saying, okay, well, I can still, I can, I can learn from good comments as well as from bad comments. And so I'm just a big fan of, like, if you're in school or not in school, make sure you have your portfolio ready on your iPad all the time to show off.
Right.
Like, get it out there and listen to what people say, and become totally numb to whether or not they hate something, but become totally open as to what they are actually saying, and then you'll become very good very quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the most valuable thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I said take time to collect information from people and see if there is excuse me, see if there is a common topic that they're talking about, because what
Totally.
you'll see is, though, more times than not, people are cool about it.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to have that one jerk out there that's going to be like, "Oh, Jay, you need to give up. Just give me your iPad. You deserve to leave out of here with no technology at all."
Yeah,
So if there's this anomaly, you can chalk that guy up, or that person up, to just being a jag, right? And then move on. Like, focus on the constructive criticism.
Right.
And anyone worth their weight in salt is going to have some really good feedback for you.
Yeah. And you can apply it you can turn that stuff around really quick, which is what's great about it. Like, how things work now is, like, as fast as you can turn it out, you can learn from it.
Right.
And like, this is, like, I feel like, especially with stuff like VR and these totally new fields where nobody even
Uh-oh.
what this is.
Daniel, we're losing you again.
Like, that's the stuff to make the mark there. Damn, I'm sorry, it's the beard. Now?
The beard is taking up all of the bandwidth.
Happens to me all the time.
It's true, man.
All right. Can you hear us?
There we go. I can hear you good.
Okay, good. So you can hear me say this or that.
Yo, I thought of the exact same sound effect. That's crazy.
All right.
Jack, no doorbell?
No.
This is a
That's special reserved.
This is a magnificent game we play called This or That. Due to the lovely locks that are on top of your head, I have to ask you, man bun or cornrows?
Man, cornrows forever.
Boy.
Hang on, wait. I got a follow up to that. The Einstein or the Larry Fine?
Einstein.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't think you're going to say that, actually.
Good one, though.
All right. Directing or painting?
Directing.
Wow.
He said directing. Nice.
Directing.
Nice.
Give him a hard one. That was easy.
Film making or film watching?
Ooh.
Filmmaking, but that's painful. That's a tough one.
Twisted your arm.
Yes, but yeah, that's. I have to answer fast on that one because it's going to hurt too much to think about. That's
All right. Well, since you worked on the girl with the dragon tattoo, tattoos or piercings?
tattoos.
Yeah.
Good man.
Have you seen
In
those?
fact, if I can just elaborate on that really quickly, I have no tattoos yet.
Elaborate on any one of these.
All right, so like, if I were to get a tattoo, I have my tattoo planned out, because my name Dan Thron. Okay, I got a call from my friend Jim, who is a pharmacologist. He went to school for pharmacology, and he called up and he was laughing so hard that he couldn't actually tell me why he called. He just hung up and had the call back like in 10 minutes. And he's just like, "Your dad was a doctor, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." It was like in the 70s? So I was like, yeah. Dude, your name is a drug. And like he sent me this this screenshot of like the with like the hex drawing of what chemicals line up to make a drug, and it says Thron down at the bottom of it. You can Google this right now. If you read Thron as a word, you will see
Right.
right. And so like that's that. Now that's cool enough, but he also said it's a horse laxative. It's a carcinogenous horse laxative that was banned in the 70s.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
so when I asked my mom, I was like, "Mom, did Dad name me after a horse laxative?" And she's like, "Oh, you thought you'd never find out about that."
What, she knew?
Like it was just Okay.
Wait, so the tattoo is the chemical symbol or
It's the
what?
chemical symbol for Thron, yeah. If I ever get that one. Thron.
well, since we're on the topic, would you rather? This is horrible. DMT or Viagra?
You're so stupid.
DMT for sure. And that's not just because I love it. The void.
Come back and ask that question in 30 years.
That's right. I want to change my answer.
He'll be tweeting like a mug. All right, let's see. Would you rather deal with fast zombies that die easy, like on the movie I Am Legend, or slow zombies that keep coming, like Walking Dead?
Fast zombies. Because like I'm gonna lose in both cases, like easily. Because I'm not a very athletic person. But but at least with fast zombies, it's over pretty quickly. And it's slow zombies. It's like that's the worst, man. It's like you're screwed, and they still have like 20 feet to go. You're like, oh man, I have to think about this for like 5 more minutes before it even happens. I'd way rather be taken out quick.
I got it. I completely understand. Let's see. Time travel with instant rippling repercussions, for example, Looper or Back to the Future, or time travel with branching universes like Quantum Leap?
Oh yeah. That's tricky. No, I tell you what. No, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say with branching universes because one of those universes has to be the universe in which it has instant repercussions.
You're getting both. You're getting both.
Oh.
That was clever,
I love
though.
dealing with people that think.
It's got to be in there somewhere, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Well, if the universe is infinite, there's all that stuff is capable.
It's called a Boltzmann brains? Never heard of that? Mathematician Boltzmann was saying like if you have infinite time and infinite space, then out of nothing or out of just the random collision of particles, like a brain has to be able to suddenly appear just anywhere in the universe. And so like a grand piano just happened, like you're in the mists of Jupiter, and suddenly it just turns into a grand piano and then turns back into mist. Like that's the infinite universe problem. So like, everything has to happen. So included with that is, of course, the Looper idea. So I'm going to go with both.
Yeah, I like it.
Although I was thinking about Looper, I guess like Looper is really like the bit like that awesome scene when the dude's getting like his feet and then his his calf and then his
horrifying thing.
It's totally horrifying, right? And the thing is, like I'm watching this going. Initially, I was like, well, how is it supposed to happen right then? How is it communicating the information instantaneously? Like, and I'm like, what actually must be happening is essentially you're seeing an edit of 100 different universes in which these things happened. So it's not just this guy is getting his fingers clipped off one by one. You're seeing an infinite number of guys who this has happened to.
In an infinite number of situations, like just waking up and having no fingers, going to the bathroom and having no fingers.
Exactly. I mean, that's worse than revenge, man. That's like, I'm gonna get revenge across every infinite version. It's horrifying.
Yeah. And then if you think about it, like somewhere in this universe, there is a Rick James slapping a Charlie Murphy with a 100-fingered hand.
Oh, it's happening. It's just off camera right here.
And then he turns into mist.
Exactly. The Bolton Rick James. That's perfect.
All right, let's see. This or that. Reincarnation or mind uploading?
Mind uploading. Mind uploading. In fact, I have a recommendation based on that.
Yes.
Go get the book. There's a great book called Diaspora by Greg Egan. Science fiction book, and it's about what it would mean to upload your consciousness and live infinitely, and it's absolutely insane. You feel crazy reading that book. It's totally awesome.
That's the dilemma. I wouldn't mind doing it if a bunch of people are doing it, but I would hate to do it. I would hate to do it if I was the only one.
Podcast to be like, oh, this is good, but maybe only for a few years.
Yeah.
I love Jack.
Because I don't do good with death too much, and with everyone that I know coming and going forever.
Right.
That's equally as horrifying as getting your fingers clipped off infinitely.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Forced to live with everyone dying and being reborn all the time.
That's why dude on the Green Mile, that's why he wanted to go. He's like, I'm not afraid of death, dude. I've been around way too long. And then he sucked up the evil lady, or not evil, she wasn't the evil, her husband was, or no.
The evil, yeah. Right.
He sucked up all the sickness and then breathed it into that dude that crushed a little mouse, and moving on. Speaking of going on and on, would you rather have witty dialogue or a witty plot?
Witty plot. Yeah, absolutely. I love witty dialogue. And the thing is, it's like when Tarantino first started making movies, and everyone was trying to copy Tarantino, right? And they came out with Way of the Gun and all these other, semi-good movies. Like they were just like, oh, we have lots of snappy dialogue and pop culture references, and we're gonna have a fun movie. Like, you actually have to have a good plot first, and that's why Pulp Fiction works. And that's why you remember Pulp Fiction and don't remember Way of the Gun. And it's like you can always put clever dialogue on top last as like the cherry on the sundae. But if you don't have the clever plot, then if you don't have the clever plot, then you're screwed. Dialogue is much simpler to get right than stories all the time.
Cool, I like it. All right, so now the last one that I have on the list of this or that's are things that movies are made of. Daniel Thron, Mars or Jupiter?
Let's see. Mars. Absolutely Mars. That's a big old sci-fi nerd deal right there, from Kim Stanley Robinson to Ray Bradbury to everything. So absolutely Mars.
Why Mars, not Jupiter?
Jupiter is awesome, and it's in a couple of good movies. 2001, 2010, which is still great, even though it's a terrible sequel. And it's big and pretty. But Mars is I don't know. That's legendary to me. That's where I wanted to go when I was a kid. That was the giant.
Yeah, they sent Good Will Hunting out there.
I know, so great. And
Wow.
came back, and yeah, it's fantastic. Like, you got
Started teaching school.
teacher. Yeah, that's nice. You got tenure.
That's a nice wrap up of that. Like,
Like that, I think that's really the upshot of that. It's just like if you work hard enough, you'll get tenure.
if you work hard enough, they won't fire
You get the good tenure.
Good tenure.
All you guys fail.
Have you guys been following the NASA satellite that they sent out to Jupiter at all?
Oh yeah, I'm totally.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I
You know,
saw
they put a little Lego Galileo on board. I thought that was totally cute.
I
little
didn't
tiny
know
plastic
that, but
Galileo.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. I love that stuff. I'm a big space nut.
Yeah, and for folks that don't know, everyone thought that Jupiter was a star, and then Galileo kind of looked through his little rickety telescope and saw this big ass rock out there with moons floating around, and he was like, "Whoa, that's not a star." All of a sudden, it was Jupiter.
Yeah, pretty badass, dude.
So here's some details for that voyage. They sent out the Juno satellite 5 years ago. It traveled 1.8 billion with a B miles, and it cost us 1.1 billion with a B dollars. And we're going to get some really
$1 a
cool
mile,
Polaroids
man.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you guys think that this is going to trigger off like a lot of Jupiter movies now? Like now that once we get a good look at what it actually looks like, is it going to be a situation like where we put Vin Diesel on Jupiter and it's really hot during the day but really cold at night, and there's animals up there?
He's blind.
Yeah, you can't. I don't know what kind of movie that would. I mean, maybe that would actually be an awesome movie because you can't really like land on Jupiter. Most of it's gas. You'd kind of like be falling forever until you hit the molten core and just erupts. There isn't much of a surface. I mean, I don't know. I've never been there. Maybe somebody can tell me what it's like. But
Oh, right there.
But I don't know. That could maybe introduce some like interesting vehicles and like flight. I mean, it's mostly like gonna be like a weird flight planet with like floating metal helium chunk. I don't know what the hell's over there. We gotta wait for the Polaroids to come back.
Maybe the expensive Polaroids.
Who's the dude who did the awesome whale hunting, like the sky whale hunting short film? VFX guy. He just got a deal to make a feature out of this thing. So maybe that's our new.
I love that VFX short. What is it called?
Yeah, it's gorgeous, man. Totally awesome.
Maybe yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's our new Jupiter movie right there. It's the Jovian whale movie. I think that's it.
Makes sense because they're all flying around and can't land.
Exactly, right?
What if we sent that thing out there, and it's gonna do its revolutions around the planet, and we see a bunch of little aliens up there, and I say aliens, a bunch of Jupiterians. What would they be?
Jovians.
What, Jovians?
Jovians, yeah.
Aren't those the same guys that were from Jersey that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, they've got a little door in Charlie's house.
Bing bong. How cool would it be if there were like
Are you a Space-Alien guy?
Jubileans? They're Jubilees.
They're not Jubilees.
Jubileans, there you go. I like that.
Jubilees.
Jubilees. Sounds like a bad
Because
day.
we've been kind of like Daniel, for example. He's been enthralled with Mars and all the Martians and everything. Anytime we get, anytime Earth gets invaded, it's always been Martians. But who's to say Jubileans don't know how to? Because if they're made out of gas, maybe they're here. Maybe they hide themselves in Mexican food.
That's right.
They're already. They've been here a long time.
I've been successfully invaded already.
Whoa.
Whoa.
They hide in Mexican food and cheese.
Yeah. I'm the perfect host for the Jubileans.
So they are parasites.
Yeah. The quesadillas from Jupiter. That's
Quesadillas.
Jupiter. We have a show title. Dan, were you always wanting to be a director, or was this kind of a love that happened while you're making your way through your professional career?
Yeah, no, since I was a kid, yeah, like since I understood what directing was, I wanted to be a director, and like before that, I wanted to be the Flash. Before that, that was my only goal.
That's fair. That's fair. That's.
Yeah.
I was pretty quick as a kid. I was always. Do you remember Zips, the tennis shoes?
Zips. No, I don't remember Zips. Maybe that would have changed my career course right there.
Yeah, I think I might have you. I think I might have you by a couple of years, but yeah, Zips. They used to be. I can't remember the theme song. It was some. Anyway, so you put on Zips, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they taught you on the commercial. You like shuffle your feet like this, and then you go from one corner to the other corner, right? So you make a Z with your shoes, and then you run super fast.
That's the magic trick, yeah.
That's what they told you on the commercials, and then I was like, dude, Zips were expensive too. So we used to always, my mom would take us to Kmart, and she would get us she would buy us shoes. It was me, my brother, my little sister. She would buy us shoes that came a lot like a bunch of grapes. This is just a bunch of shoes strung together and for $5 or whatever it was. She goes, "You could do Zips. Get out there and make that Z." And I did it. And I was like, "Oh, I don't need Zips. I'm fast."
Yeah.
But I still always did the Z. I still always did the Z.
You know, the dudes that ran that company are kicking themselves for giving away the secret. Can't sell any more shoes, man. You put the trick in the commercial.
That's it. Have you been watching Flash, the TV series?
I've never seen The Flash, no. I understand that Kevin Smith just directed an episode or two.
Yeah.
I saw him talking about it in his podcast. That was very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it.
It's an awesome outfit. I didn't think you'd make that outfit look cool, but they definitely did.
Yeah, they really did. And then he zips through
did
traffic
they pull off
and
anything
stuff.
the Quicksilver stuff from X-Men? Because that was the definitive move fast scene of all time. I don't know if you could actually top that one.
That was so well done.
Yeah, it's perfect. They can only be topped by you may not even know this one. The girl, the gold watch, everything. Remember that one? But the girl, the gold watch, and Dynamite. Anybody?
Mm-mm.
Oh man! All right, you can look that one up on YouTube. If you're a Robert Hayes fan, who is the guy who starred in Airplane, then you can go look at the original "Turn the Bullet Around in Midair" scene. Is from the girl, the gold watch, and Dynamite. It's totally amazing.
Nice.
It's about the qualitative level of God. Let's see. It's a Sharknado event. It's definitely a Sharknado level event.
Okay.
But I think they can still take credit.
So how would you describe your work, your style of movie making? Is it futuristic? Okay. Is it zombies? Is it first come first serve?
It's anything. There's no kind of movie that I don't like, but I don't think there's any kind of movie I wouldn't want to try to make if I could. But like the thing that I super believe in, and this starts from my illustration, is like I really uh, like less detail, like, or at least more like, like chiaroscuro, where you're just like you're only highlighting certain detailed areas, and the audience's brain sort of sums up the rest, and it makes them more involved in the creativity of what they're looking at. Like, because it's like if things are lost in shadow, but like there's enough there to suggest what it means, then it's going to create the scariest thing in the world in your brain, and that's going to be true for everybody because it's going to be different for everybody. Right. And I think that also is true for movies, and how like the best world building in movies happens like that. Like Blade Runner doesn't tell you very much about the world. Like it has like the one opening crawl, and that's about it. And even that's not very detailed. And the rest of it, they're just like, it's robots and shirtless guys and big tall buildings, and that's it. And out of that, like you in your mind is so hungry to sort of try to figure it out that it builds out, it renders a much deeper world than they could ever put on screen. And so like that's the philosophy I think that lots of big blockbusters sort of fail at now, and science fiction movies and stuff like that in particular, like where they just feel the need to super explain everything and tell you why the world is this way, or what the connections are between everybody, or who's so-and-so's father, and all that stuff. Like that actually limits the scale of your experience hugely, and it takes the creativity away from the audience, because I think that when you leave it open, the audience is engaged, and when they're building the movie with you, they are more invested in the movie. And like, so like if you get to watch my zombie short, like we don't really explain why the world is the way it is or how this is working in this way. You're just concerned with this one dude and this one stressful situation. And out of that, like we got 1,000 emails from people talking about like how they thought the world worked, and they were much better ideas than anything that we had come up with. And because people were just spurred into imagining stuff, and I think that like that's the real responsibility of any kind of artistic communication, is like don't just tell people stuff, like let them come up with the stuff as well, and then it's gonna last forever.
Yeah.
So there, we have a couple minutes to go. Guys, do you have any questions for Daniel?
That was pretty good.
Good, man. Yeah, good. Hey, did you share some of his artwork?
What?
Did you share some of his artwork? Like, do you have any matte paintings or anything online, Daniel?
They're kind of scattered all over the place. Yeah, I don't really have it centralized. Yeah, but it's like my favorite stuff, the stuff I'm most proud of. If you look at there's a making of Zodiac that you can watch on YouTube, and it's the scene when they investigate they investigate the cab and that whole the big handheld sequence. Mm-hmm. Now I was only one of the 5 or 6 person team on this, but like that is definitely the work that I'm most proud of doing in movie history right there. It's one of my favorite movies, and I'm psyched to have any part of it, and the work we did was so seamless. That's my argument for like when people are like, oh, you can't act well on a green screen, and it's not possible. Look at episodes 1 through 3. I'm like, when you're like, this whole sequence in Zodiac was shot on a green screen. Like this is all green screen, and nobody was slowed down by it. Nobody even noticed it. And I think that's like, to totally, rope the audience into this thing is just like the greatest feeling in the whole wide world. They may never know it, but it's like I'm ultra proud of that. So look that one up on YouTube. And also, there's some brilliant work. I can't take a lot of credit for this one, but I'm very proud to be a part of it. Like, not too many people got to see Oblivion, but Oblivion is a really beautiful looking movie. Mm-hmm. And I really want to send shout outs to John Green and Zach Mant, who I got to work with on that show, and it is their work is literally some of the best matte work I've ever seen in any movie ever, and everyone should check that stuff out. It's absolutely mind blowing.
Excellent.
We'll put those links in. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So we are getting close to 2 hours, and if no one else has any questions, the question that I have for you is, if people are looking for your work, Daniel, out there online, where can they find it?
I would start with check out that short film. It's called Spoiler. It's on Vimeo. So if you just Google Vimeo Spoiler Zombie, it'll be the first thing that pops up. I'm pretty sure. I also did a short film for Vice and Fox Studios for Planet of the Apes when the last Planet of the Apes movie came out, and we did me and 2 other directors did short stories set in the world leading up to the new movie. So if you go Planet of the Apes Year 5, you can see that one. And I've just spent the last few months shooting 3 new shorts, and those will be up on the web, and it'll finally get me to put up my own personal website to collect all this stuff. So in the next 2 months, you should be able to see this stuff.
Excellent, thank you, sir. I couldn't keep my brain from seeing you putting some shorts on a clothesline and then backing up with the rifle. But that's just me. He was shooting shorts.
Shooting shorts. That's it, man. That should be the opening logo for all of our movies from now on.
Yeah.
And Charlie B. Williams. If people are looking for you, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, which is www.cargocollective.com/Charlie B. Williams. All my latest and greatest are up there. You can find me on Twitter at CBW3. You can find me on Instagram at CharlieBW3, Facebook, CharlieBW3, almighty Pinterest, CharlieBW3. Go there, change your life. Yeah.
And Jack Casper Zach.
And as always at sketchbookjack.com and sketchbookjack on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest.
Excellent. And I wanted to point out that the people that make Procreate and Procreate Pocket, their name is Savage Interactive, but you can find them at procreate.si. So yeah, that's them. And I wanted to make sure that I touched on another topic, and
People want to find
I know what it is. No, not at all. We were talking about earlier in the show. We were talking about uncomfortable situations and stuff, and we got a text in from the one and only Neeraj Desai, and he said, "Yo Tango, El Gato, and Los Pantalones." So if you want to talk about someone in a very uncomfortable situation, if you translate that, he's saying he has a cat in his pants. So yeah, and there are plenty of fans out there that missed the Cubs cap. So next week, the Cubs cap is going back on.
You don't like the slicked back hair?
No, some people did like it. This is my my Mad Men hairstyle.
Yeah, you clean up
My Don Draper.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not Don Draper. I am Carlos Gomez, and you can find me at carlosrgomez.com. And if you're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Behance, you can find me under the name Coconut Justice. This has been the Sketch Zone podcast. You can find us at sketch.zone. You can suggest a guest at sketch.zone/guest. If you're on Twitter, we're at SketchZone. On Facebook.com/TheSketchZone. YouTube.com/SketchZonePodcast. And as always, you can find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, and subscribe to us on iTunes. And when you do that, if you leave a little review, we'll read it on the show. that is it for us, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks for.
Daniel, thank you for
everybody.
thank you for coming on the show. It was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. You are a lot of fun. And hey, Blockbuster, we miss you.
Blockbuster Video.
Here's my the last time I was in a Blockbuster, I was returning movies, but also picking up some movies, and this lady kept staring at me and giving me just a really mean mug, right? And I finally looked at her. I was like, "What the hell's your problem?" I didn't say that, but I had it on my face. And I looked down, and I had this T-shirt that said, it had a big, huge picture of a clicker Bic pen, right? And it said, "My pen is huge." But pen and is were on the same line, and that's why she was mad. Anyway, so with that, my friends, have a wonderful week.
All right.